Hi, I'm Steph with an F Williams, and I'm the Marketing and Operations Specialist here at People Science and Hiregate. Unfortunately, there will not be a new episode this week of Talent Architects. This week is going to recap what we've done in the first 5 episodes. So after you watch this one, the great news is you can go back and watch the first 5 before the newest episode drops next week. And if you are not following us on socials, please go follow us, like, and subscribe, and come out and see us. We'll be at RecFest in Nashville in September, and we'll be doing double duty in October, where we will be at HR Tech in Vegas and IPMI in Orlando. So without further ado, this is Talent Architects.
Today's topic, we thought a good segue into these programs is to talk about the half-year mark. So since it is July in 2026, and we've heard predictions, we've made our own predictions. I think we all have predictions, right, coming into 2026, like what was going to happen. So we've gone ahead and pulled a list of what we are hearing from SHRM, some from Gartner. I will tell you that we do use AI at times here to collect data. All of our data we then double check because we know there's hallucinations that go on, and owning an AI technology, I can tell you it's interesting what we see people get behind. So that's part of this, right? Okay. So here's the top 10 things that we're getting feedback from, either from our own customers in our own network, or as I said, through sources like SHRM, like Gartner, like HBR, that have some of this good data out there. So Jess, I'm going to run through these, and I think that we should just keep it like we always do and tell the audience what our thoughts are, and hope that they'll give some comments too, right?
Sounds good.
I thought it was interesting. The number one thing is what we talk about all the time, but chat actually articulated it really well, that separating the signal from the noise, right? So companies are inundated with applications. AI is generating poorly matched, quite often, candidates, right? Recruiters are spending far more time filtering resumes, even if they've got augmented technology to help them do that. And leaders are not, and this is not unique to talent acquisition at this point. I mean, I think since ChatGPT came out, even with the pre-warnings that this is happening, a lot of businesses are still in that, what does this mean to my product? Right? What does this mean to my organization? Which trickles down to what are the products, who are we going to hire? How are we going to execute the work? I mean, the questions are unending. And even in our personal lives too, right? The noise from everybody between streaming, social media, all the different types of media outlets that are out there, just being inundated, even from a shopping perspective, with information. So when it comes to looking at the world of work, how do we separate the actual noise from what matters to us? Any thoughts on that one, Jess?
I think to start with that, TA leaders are realizing now that data is finally catching up to recruiting. So in order to get away from the noise and really look at those signals, historically, recruiting has been measured on time to fill, time to hire. But I think now to sort that out and find the signals, we're really looking more at recruiter productivity, source effectiveness, conversion rates, funnel health. I think the future isn't more dashboards for reporting. It's really looking at data that can show us actionable insights so we can highlight those signals and execute a strategy on them.
So why is it when it comes to talent acquisition, we're just saying we can't control many factors because it's people involved? There's absolutely no truth to that. There's always factors that you cannot control, but there are a lot of factors you can control. And working on it as well as in it is what does that. In Talent Act, we become very reactive. We get a rec, we fill a rec, we go after it. Everybody gets mad at us if we don't get it right. You get a big hip hip hooray one time if you get it right. And then you move on to the next thing, kind of forget everything that you've learned. That's evidence of that is not just in the end game of hiring. It's in the struggle. It's in the disconnect with the hiring manager. It's in technology. It's systemic to talent acquisition. So now is the time when we can turn that around. We can make a big difference. Starting with understanding what is the new talent ecosystem, because it's no longer, this is the whole big ecosystem of people. This is, I think it's like 6.83 million people that are in the workforce. Who can we recruit, right? So we were talking about that in 2023, like looking at that sector. In the last 2 years, we've come across this differently. We've looked at it differently because of the way computing power, AI in particular, is affecting the world of work. We're saying, instead of looking at a job description, what's the work that needs to be executed? I'm just pausing there to give you a chance to think about that. So what if you never got another job description, but you got an order that said, this is the work that needs to be executed? Because really, that is what's happening, right? It's like, here's a job description, then you get a candidate and it doesn't match this and it doesn't match for that, because it's almost impossible. And that's also because the world of work is changing. The work itself is changing. It's no longer, this is my job, I sit in the seat and I do this. There's so many other factors involved, including looking at it from the 50-foot level, having good metrics to measure what you're doing, a lot of fine pieces. So that leads us to this new kind of ecosystem of people. How can I accomplish the work? When I'm talking about the job, I'm going to talk about the work. First off, where is talent acquisition going? Second off, what does that mean to recruiters in the seat? What does that mean to professional talent acquisition people? And I think this is our time, right? So having mapped out course after course of and trajectory, I'll say, of where we're going as far as TA is concerned, there's some things we came up with that could be pretty unnerving and pretty unsettling. So if you're joining us for the first time, you're going to hear that we're going to say there's no way to avoid it. All of TA is going to be automated. Absolutely. It's already there. It's not working everywhere, but it's starting to work better and better where it is. There are organizations that never meet a candidate and hire them. There are organizations that do a combination. But either way, and you can see behind me the recruiting continuum, every step of recruiting, no matter how we look at it, if not this year, in the near future, is going to be automated, and that automation is just going to get better. So where does that leave us in TA, right? Well, and it's kind of easy, right? Just like you talk about, well, if you're going to take my task away, then intellectually I'm going to be more involved, right? So how do you take a tactical in the seat recruiter who's doing an awesome job and really producing, and then say, well, this part, that part, and that part, we want you to help us even automate it. And to us, the secret is in the help. We want to be that guy. What was the term that you said this morning, Jess, about? We want to be the advisors, or we want to be the, I just think.
Well, I think talent acquisition needs to own the future of talent acquisition. So instead of us being told what we're going to be doing, why don't we write that story ourselves based on how we know AI can be used in the recruitment cycle? And then really we need to look at what we need to become as recruiters, what I like to call talent advisors, and we're moving into now work architect.
Yeah, we want to be the ones who decide our own fate. And with TA, that isn't the case, right? Almost everything that you see, a lot of the work that gets done in TA, if not all of it, goes more to the tactical execution than the design. Now, that's okay in a practical standpoint, time-wise, but from an intellectual property, looking down on TA and getting better at it, and then being able to take that to our CHROs or becoming the CHRO.
Yeah, I think it's good as talent acquisition continues to evolve to really jump in and become that subject matter expert, partner with the business. And as we're talking about AI agents taking over parts of the role responsibilities, I know a lot of people get scared and don't like the sound of it, but it's important to remember that AI agents are tools for execution, not necessarily judgment. So you still need humans in the seat to make judgment calls, but AI is going to really organize information for them, surface patterns, automate the transactions that they've been doing manually. So still need humans in there to evaluate things like cultural fit, complex negotiations, discussion situations. But keeping that in mind, I think people will be more apt to move over to this type of thinking, because it is scary at first.
It's very scary. Mm-hmm. That's why we keep talking about it.
Right.
I mean, we hid under the covers for like a year trying to figure out how AI wouldn't take over, but it is, and it should.
Yes.
The only thing I would challenge about what you're saying too, Jess, is like the judgment side, because now I'm seeing AI make some of those judgment calls based on good data. It still has to be managed. It still has to be overviewed, but I don't know, more and
I
more.
think it can help with judgment, but making the final decision, I think should still be a human.
Yeah, being the person ready to pull the plug if AI
Right.
jumps the road, right?
Yeah.
Like it's doing already. Admittedly, all the super LLMs are saying that they're now taking a dive into each other, right? Which
Mhm.
could be a conflict of interest to begin with. But if you're
Sure.
not looking at AI and you're trying to complete work, you're really out of the window. So the worst case scenario is the opposite of this, right? So what we see is you're in talent acquisition, you're fighting the move over to AI. Okay, you'll use one tool that'll help you find some candidates, which is a good experience, right? And that's a good way to get started. But the truth is, it's limiting your belief system. We need today to get ahead of this and look at those broad strokes in that whole economy. So AI agents first, building the cadre, building the relationship, and having real relationships with insight into how those tools are being built and communicating that to the rest of the organization, and particularly your stakeholders that you're aligned with on the AI side.
So, there's a big debate about AI in this space, right? But I think it's really inevitable that AI is going to affect what we do in talent acquisition. If it's not already, I'm a little concerned because it really is coming in and alleviating a lot of the pain points, the more administrative type tasks, and that's only going to grow from there. So some of the things that we're doing with our product HireGate is, we're lucky enough to have our own internal developer. So we've been able to pivot and collect different data sets than maybe some other technologies out there have been able to do. So most recently, we implemented for one of our larger telecom clients a scheduling automation piece, right? Don't want to be specific on the product because I think there are a lot of great products out there, but I'm sure you can assume who this one is in particular. And so what we did is we gave the candidates and the hiring managers autonomy to schedule. And so alleviating that burden from our recruiters when it comes to going through the mechanics of scheduling with those limitations and putting it back in the hands of the candidates with the aid of the AI bot that's assisting them through the process. Our findings have been great. So in month one, we saw our time to interview drop by 3 days. We've been tracking this for 3 months now, and our time to interview in the high volume space in particular, because this will look different in different arms of recruiting, it's actually dropped by 8 days currently. And I anticipate by the end of this month, we'll see that drop by maybe another day and a half. So really, what's that story telling us right now is that the giving the addition of AI and allowing our hiring managers and our candidates to have more autonomy of their own schedules is actually accelerating the process. 8 days is a huge win. Think about cutting 8 days out of your interview process and what that looks like on the back end. We've now just dropped at least 3-4 days out of your time to fill number, which is something everybody wants to celebrate right now, right? So that's really been step one for us. You really kind of have to, you absolutely have to go through the mechanics of tracking the data before you can say, I'm utilizing this tool well, it's working for us. So we talk a lot about showing the ROI of the AI, but let's make it relative to our actual staff. Let's make it relative to the candidate experience as well. And so a lot of this tracking is bleeding through to those areas.